Okay, so without skipping to the end of our Anglo-Saxon unit, obviously there's lots more to do. I thought we'd go for the next area of potential interest and also setting up activities that you can do at home, not necessarily involving the internet. So, when Alfred the Great passed, the Vikings and the Saxons, generally speaking, got along. There were still disputes, which means arguments, there were still battles and wars they would have, but really it was kind of said that this is going to be the Vikings' land, this is going to be the Saxons' land, these are going to be still belonging to the Celts or the Britons that was there before either the Saxons or the Vikings. And generally speaking, the rule was when somebody dies, their king would take over next. Not always the case, but generally that was the rule. However, it does then get complicated when we get characters like we have here. The characters here in bold, they were crowned king. If they're not in bold, they were potentially brothers, sisters, wives, or other relatives of those kings. So we have here Canute the Great, and he was originally a Viking, but he became king of the Anglo-Saxons as well. However, he was a very complicated character because he actually had 2 wives and he had children with both of those wives. So when he died, it was very greatly disputed, it was very greatly argued about who would become king next. And then when we got down to this character here, Edward the Confessor, he had no heirs, he had no children. So therefore, if you look at the other parts of the family tree as a potential next king, and you can see why certain characters argued about who would be next. While Edward the Confessor by the way meaning that he was quite close to God, that he was a holy man, while he was alive, he didn't really rule like Alfred the Great would, or like many Saxon rulers would. He ruled where he delegated, so he basically left other people up in charge of ruling each of the regions, each of the areas, each of the kingdoms. One of those characters, obviously, when he dies, is thinking, well, I should surely be king next. However, due to some arguments and some promises that were apparently made and apparently broken, it became an argument over who should be king next, as we'll see. So, as I say, when Edward Confessor died in 1066, he left no heir to the throne. So obviously there was a dispute, there was an argument, and there were 3 main rivals for the throne. There was Howard Godwinson. He was the Earl of Wessex at the time, and Wessex was still one of the biggest kingdoms in what is now England. And because he was doing so much for Edward the Confessor, he thought, well, I'm clearly going to be king next. Edward the Confessor also promised him he would be king, but he kind of did that on what we call your deathbed, which is sort of you're very, very old and you're going to die, and he's made the promise then. Another person who thought they should have a right at being king was another Harold Hardrada, which was the king of Norway at the time. And suddenly the Vikings are thinking, yeah, we've been getting along recently with these Saxons, but if the king of the Saxons is going to die, maybe there's an opportunity we can take control again. And the third person was William, Duke of Normandy. Normandy is a place in France, and actually a place where Edward the Confessor spent quite a lot of time growing up, so he became quite friendly with the people of Normandy, and he was rumoured to have promised the kingdom of England to William. However, Harold was named king. Harold Godwinson of Wessex, he was named king, and he expected there would be some trouble from Harold and from William, and there was.
All hail Harold, the new king of England! You are no king.
Not this again.
You are not worthy to hold that weird gold ball.
It's called a globus cruciger, and yes, I am. King Edward had no children, so he made me his heir.
He promised you the throne when he was old and dying. He promised it to me 15 years ago. And when you were in Normandy, you swore an oath on holy relics that you'd let me have the throne.
So it was rumoured that because Edward the Confessor had said William will be my king next, he'll be in charge next, actually Harold wanted to keep his power, so he said, oh, okay, yeah, we'll protect William, we'll back William, and now obviously Edward's dead, he's not doing that. although he's claiming you're making it up.
You're making that up.
You're an oath breaker.
How dare you? I'm English royalty. You're nothing but a lying Norman.
King Edward was half Norman, you fool. And unlike you, I'm actually related to him.
I'm related.
Barely. Your father arranged for your sister to marry Edward.
Which is why he made me his heir. The throne is mine by law. Besides, I've already been crowned. See?
Well, I know a guy who says the archbishop who crowned you was excommunicated.
Oh, right. What idiot said that?
The Pope.
So in order to become king, you needed to have the archbishop or somebody of equal sort of religious level or religious power saying, oh, this person has been chosen by God, they should be king. And obviously the Archbishop of England said, oh, Harold should be king. But the Pope, who was in charge of God's people on earth, said, no, that's not right. I'm going to excommunicate that person. I'm going to say they're no longer in the Christian family.
I'll die before I let a thieving Norman take the throne.
Just try and stop me. God is on my side.
Edwin, sharpen the battle axes.
Roger! Prepare the ships!
So, as it says here, Harold Godwinson, two Harolds are confusing, but Harold Godwinson got all his troops ready, all of his soldiers ready, and waited for William. He knew William was going to attack, but he didn't. Word arrived, Harold Hardrada, which is the Viking, word arrived to him, that the King of England was dead. So he arrived in the north of England with an army. So Harold Godwinson now had to race from the south of England to the north with all of his soldiers carrying their heavy shields, carrying their swords, carrying all of their armour right up to the north of England. But it was worthwhile because Harold Hardrada, the Viking, was not expecting Harold Godwinson. So Harold Godwinson managed to defeat the Vikings quite easily with that battle. And he actually battled them and defeated them at a battle called Stamford Bridge. And he killed Harold Hardrada. So suddenly 3 rivals became 2. You have William of Normandy, still in Normandy at the moment. And you have Harold Godwinson, just won a really, really important battle against the 3rd rival. So Harold needed to regroup. And as he regrouped, more news arrived that William, Duke of Normandy, had now landed in England in the south. So, all of Harold Godwinson's troops had to march back down south, already battled, some of them injured, some of them dead. So, still carrying all of their heavy weaponry, they had to march all the way back down south. When they got there, there was a battle called the Battle of Hastings. We can have a look at what happened there. Not got the answers there, but we'll have a look why.
The Battle of Hastings took place on the 14th of October, 1066. Yeah! It was an exceptionally long battle by medieval standards, lasting all day.
An indication of how evenly matched the rival armies were. By daybreak, the 2 armies opposed one another with 5,000 to 7,000 men each.
Both armies had similar armour and weapons, but the Normans also had skilled archers.
The English fought on foot and used their shield wall to withstand repeated and bloody assaults.
The Normans had a strong cavalry force of over 2,000 knights and esquires to support the infantry.
The English defence was strengthened by the housecarls, highly trained soldiers who could kill a knight or his horse in one blow with their fearsome battle axes.
Gradually, the Normans gained the upper hand until, in the last attack, Harold was killed. Either by an arrow in the eye or being hacked to death.
William was crowned on Christmas Day, 1066.
Nailed it.
So, a very quick version of the Battle of Hastings. Here's what you can potentially do with that knowledge. You may wish to create a comic strip. What happened from the point Edward the Confessor died to the point you just saw in the end of the video, which was William of Normandy, or William of the Normans, or William the Conqueror becoming king. You might want to write a short paragraph and explain how or why William of Normandy won the Battle of Hastings. So why did he win? Why did Harold Godwinson lose? What events in the build-up led to that conclusion? You may want to build or create a fort like William would have when he first landed in England, because rather than chasing up to the north, William the Conqueror, William of Normandy, actually built lots and lots of castles, lots and lots of forts, and waited for Harold Godwinson to march back down to him. Have a think about why he might want Harold Godwinson, who's just marched all the way up to the north, to march all the way back down again. You might want to write 3 paragraphs explaining why each of them should be king. So each of our 3 main rivals, why they should be king, why they think they deserve to be king of England. You might want to research, this one does involve some internet time, but you might want to research the different roles of the armies in the Anglo-Saxons and William of Normandy. So you might research in that last little video there, it showed you the Saxon housecarls, it showed you the Normandy archers. The reason I've put KS2, Key Stage 2, afterwards is just to make sure you get information that is relevant and also appropriate for your age. And the Bayeux Tapestry, I'm not going to tell you too much information about what that is, but potentially something you want to look into. As a quick summary, that was sort of like a sewn picture of what happened in the build-up to William becoming king. It also involved the battle itself, and that was why the videos were kind of drawn how they were drawn. But let's see if you can find anything out about that. So hopefully enough to be getting on with. If you have any questions, as always, send me an email, let me know. But otherwise, hopefully